Welcome to the May 2021 edition of Shooter Ready Challenge. I'm Riley Bowman, Director of Training with ConcealedCarry.com. The Shooter Ready Challenge is a monthly dry fire drill challenge that we do to help shooters get ideas, tips, suggestions, and ways to improve and make their dry fire practice better. Each month we release a fresh video with accompanying drills covering a variety of subjects. So don't forget to check out previous drills at shooterreadychallenge.com. There's a lot of great content on there from the past year and a half or almost 2 years now of doing Shooter Ready Challenge. I hope that you'll take the time each month to, and not only that, each week and each day to spend a little bit of time doing dry fire practice to get a little bit better. It's the consistency and the work you put in over time that's going to make a big difference in your growth as a shooter. Shooter Ready Challenge is sponsored by two wonderful sponsors. We have laserapp.com or lasrapp.com. I'm using their software today on my iPad, the Laser X version that is. There's the Laser Classic software, but the Laser X is the version I really like to use because it works on any internet connected device. So works great at the iPad, and so that's what we have set up here today. You can even use it with your mobile phone. So today, using Laser X software, we got just a single target on the wall. You'll see that that is a 1/3 scale USPSA target. Targets available for free at concealedcarry.com/print targets. Laser X software sees the impact of a laser beam or laser light on the target to register your hits. And what's great about the software is it not only sees and tracks where our hits are, but it gives us the times that we get those hits in. And that's where this becomes very valuable in dry fire practice, because I can get measurable, trackable data relating to my shooting skill and shooting skill growth. And so I'd encourage you to use this to its max potential, and part of Shooter Ready Challenge is to show you some ways that you can do that. We also have as a sponsor Next Level Training, makers of the fine CERT training pistols. You see a P320 compact model here, actually a P320 carry model, I suppose that's technically the case, but either way, they have a full size and a little bit compact size in the 320s, Glock size or shaped models, as well as M&Ps and a pocket pistol sized one as well. And these work great with the Laser X software because they obviously project that laser beam. So on multiple shot strings or drills that I might do in dry fire where I need to record all those hits on that target with Laser X software, that's the tool that I prefer to use. Today though, we're going to be using primarily just my live fire pistol. And today what we're actually going to work on is type 3 malfunctions, or double feed malfunctions as they're often called. Failure to extract a malfunction, another word for it. Most of the time how these malfunctions occur is when there is a fired round and its resulting case, the empty case that gets stuck in the chamber. For whatever reason, maybe the extractor failed, popped off the rim of the case and failed to pull that round out. Sometimes the round, for whatever reason, that case expands more than we expected. Maybe it's higher pressure of that round, something to that effect, and that case got stuck in there and failed to extract. Anyway, what happens then is the slide may come back, pick up another round, and then try to stick that round into the chamber where there's already a case present. And so we end up with a double feed malfunction. The slide is going to be locked back slightly. It'll be slightly forward of its rearwardmost position, okay? And an indicator that we have an issue is that we'll have a dead trigger. So we'll be able to press the trigger. In the case of many striker fired guns, it'll just move back and forth without much resistance. In the case of guns like a Glock, the trigger will be stuck to the rear already and our finger will just move back and forth, but the trigger is inoperable. So that's an indication that the gun is out of battery, and yeah, that's a clue that we need to solve the problem. We will get a similar indication if we have a type 2 malfunction, also known as a stovepipe or failure to eject malfunction, but we solve those malfunctions much the same way as we do a type 1 malfunction. So it's more of a, we need to recognize which malfunction that we have, whether it's a type 2 or type 3 when we have a dead trigger. One technique would be to actually just go ahead and start solving malfunction as though it is a type 2, meaning that we're going to either do a tap rack or maybe we're just going to do a rack to clear that stuck case out of the action. And in the event that the gun doesn't fully go back into battery, then we can assume it's a double feed and proceed right to the next step. I kind of like that automatic process type approach where it's like, if I have a dead trigger, I automatically just, or if I have any kind of malfunction, really, okay, type 1, type 2, type 3, I just automatically go to a rack or tap rack clearing of that to, you know, just because that will solve many of the malfunctions that we'd experience. And then if it doesn't solve it, then we go right to the type 3 malfunction clearance. That automatic process, I think, could work pretty well. It takes away the need for me to actually look at the gun and troubleshoot it that way. So there may be some positive benefits to that. The other way would be to get a dead trigger and actually take a quick glance at the gun and the action and quickly recognize, is that a stovepipe, is that a type 3? And then make the decision of how you're going to solve it. This video is not necessarily intended to provide recommendations or advice as far as the tactical application or tactical decision making as it relates to which of these methods you're going to follow. But what we are actually going to look at is the actual clearing of the malfunction of a double feed. Okay, so we're going to look at the type 3 malfunction. I'm going to give you a couple different ways that might be done. We're going to put it on a shot timer through the LaserX software, and that'll give us an idea of kind of the differences between the different methods, and hopefully give you an idea too of what method you might prefer for yourself. So let's get into it. First, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually set up the classic double feed malfunction. And the way this is most easily set up is we can just take a dummy round, okay? And again, make sure you are being safe with this, all right? So we do have a clear pistol here, empty action or open action, empty chamber, nothing in the magazine here. I'm going to take a dummy round, drop it in the chamber, insert my magazine, and ease the slide forward. And that's going to set up the closest thing that we can in dry fire to a double feed or type 3 malfunction, all right? So the traditional way of teaching how to clear this is to lock the slide to the rear. So I'm holding up the slide stop, pulling the slide back, releasing that, locking it to the rear, stripping the magazine out of the gun. Now, some people will teach a retention type 3 malfunction clearance. Some will teach one where you just dump that magazine and go to a spare magazine. In the civilian context, it probably makes more sense to retain the magazine because many of you may not be carrying spares, or you may not have that many rounds to begin with, even if you do have a spare. Now, one other thing would be that some of you might be skilled enough or experienced enough to recognize that, oh, this one feels kind of light. I might as well just dump it and get a full fresh mag if you have one available. But, you know, again, I'm not here to try to tell you which way is better in this regard. Just to kind of give you an idea, there's different approaches to this. We're just going to practice retaining the magazines here today. So I've locked the action to the rear. I've pulled the magazine out. Now I'm going to rack the slide 3 times. Okay, and you saw I ejected the bad round, if you will, or it would have most likely been an empty case. Now we take our magazine, reinsert it, and rack the slide again, so we get a round in the chamber and we can go back to shooting our target. Okay, so essentially it's lock slide to the rear, magazine out of the gun, rack, 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 magazine back in the gun, rack one more time, and that should solve our type 3 malfunction. So that's the more traditional, or kind of the way it's been taught for a number of decades now with semi-automatic firearms. Okay, so I'm going to give you, though, I like options, so we're going to give you a couple options here. So now what I'm going to do is, actually I'll hang on to this loose one here to be my next example. So let's go ahead and set this up again. Drop a dummy round into the chamber, loaded magazine in, ease the slide forward, double feed, set up again. So another way, and this is a way that Bill Blowers teaches of tap rack tactical. I think it's a pretty smart approach as well. But basically, if you put enough effort into removing the magazine, pretty much no matter what type of gun, you should be able to simply hit the mag release and strip the magazine out of the gun, even though the slide's pushing forward and kind of pinching that first round, the top round in the magazine in there. But just grasping it really firmly, ripping it out of the gun while you hit the magazine release should strip the magazine out of the gun. And then he teaches at that point, rack the slide once, magazine back in, rack again, you're back into the fight. All right, not a bad technique, I think. I think it works 99.9% of the time. Essentially what we're doing is we're removing we're removing the locking of the slide to the rear, and we're removing 2 of the racks. Again, traditionally it's been taught, rack it 3 times. I don't think it's really necessary. All right, but now I'm going to give you one other way. So you'll note that removing the step of locking the slide to the rear, removing 2 of the racks is probably saving us a second or 2. So that's not a bad thing. So now I'm going to show you a third technique. This is the one that I've adopted. And so we got a dummy round in the chamber, magazine in, slide eased forward on that. So our double feed set up again. This is just an even simpler way of handling this. And really the way I think of it is unload the gun, reload the gun. What does it look like? Hit the magazine release, okay? Strip the magazine out. It's going to take a little bit of effort. So that comes out. And most often that first round that's caught in there is going to come out. Occasionally it'll get stuck in here, okay? But I've tested this numerous times with Glocks, with XDs, with Smith & Wesson M&Ps, with even Taurus pistols as well, and also with my 320s. And doing just like what I'm doing here has worked pretty much flawlessly with all different platforms that I've tested it on. So we pulled the magazine out. Now we're putting the magazine back in, and now we rack it once. So basically all we did is we unloaded it by pulling the magazine out. We reloaded it by putting the magazine back in. We racked the slide, and 99+% of the time that solves malfunction, and it's substantially faster. What I'm going to do real quick is just show you, and it makes sense to do this with dummy rounds in a live gun so you can actually see this in actual application with the actual gun, just like we would do it in the field. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to do the traditional method, and then I'm going to show you my method, just so you get a sense of the difference in time. I'm not going to narrate this, we're just going to do it. So first method, lock slide. Okay, so that's the old school way. Now I'm going to show you my method. And I've practiced that a bunch, so I'm pretty proficient at it. But this way is just much, much easier. Here we go. Just like that. And we're talking like 4 seconds probably with the one method, down to 1.5 seconds or 2 seconds tops with the other method. So now I'm going to show you how you can set up double feed malfunctions with your LaserX software. So in this case, we're going to utilize a laser cartridge. And specifically, we're going to use a laser dot trainer from Ready Up Gear. Let me get it out of my pocket here. So one of these little guys. All right, so that's going to go in the chamber now. All right, and so what that does, of course, is it gives us a laser beam on the target when I reset the gun and press the trigger. Okay, so I've got the laser dot trainer inserted into the gun. Now we're going to use a different magazine for this purpose. And what I have here is an empty magazine with a mag block from Barrel Block inserted into the top of the magazine. And so what that does, if you're not familiar, a mag block means even with an empty magazine in the gun, that mag block keeps the follower down in a depressed state so that it can't actually activate the slide stop. So why is this critical? All right, so I'm going to show you how we set this up. We're going to take a dummy round. We're going to put it in on top of the mag block. So we have mag block, dummy round. Now that goes into the gun, and we ease the slide forward, and it's going to push that dummy round into the bottom of the laser dot trainer. And so we have now a simulated double feed malfunction. Let me show you how this works. In fact, I'll put it on the timer even. Okay, so what we're going to get here is, there's no part time or anything like that set, but I'm going to hit start. It's going to go shooter ready, stand by, beep, or go, or whatever the go signal will be. I can't remember in this case. We'll get the go signal. I will start up on target like this. When I get the go signal, we're going to first use the traditional method of solving a type 3 malfunction, and we'll see what the time gives us. So we're going to go all through this process, and what you're going to see happens is that we're going to clear the stuck round out of the gun. The laser dot trainer is going to stay in the chamber. we're going to end up with a empty magazine, but with the mag block on top. We're going to pretend as though it has rounds. Again, we're simulating this, but we can't actually have any more rounds in that magazine, because if we did, we would just, when we close the slide, we're just going to end up with another double feed. So we need a situation where that mag block allows us to complete the final step of the Type 3 malfunction clearing, and it's going to go forward on a closed slide, but with the laser dot trainer in the chamber. So here we go.
Shooter ready. Stand by.
And so there's our first run, 4.72 seconds. All right, not trying to like break any world speed records here, but just, you know, doing all the proper steps the proper way. Just under 5 seconds to do it that way. So do you see how that works? So again, I'll set it up. I've got some more dummy rounds in the pocket here. So mag block on an empty mag, dummy round on top of it. Put that into the gun with the laser dot trainer, double feed. Okay, so that double feed, that round is going to get cleared out of the gun. The mag block's going to allow us to continue cycling the gun even with the magazine in it. The laser dot fires the shot, stops the clock. Let's do it again. So now what we're going to do is Bill Blauer's technique of no locking the slide back. We're just going to pull magazine out, rack the slide once, magazine back in, rack, and fire. Okay? We'll see what that time looks like.
Shooter ready. Stand by.
Other than I kind of got hung up on grabbing the slide, that was a 395. So it's almost, in fact, if I hadn't missed the slide on my first attempt, it probably would have been almost exactly a second faster than the other technique. So we're easily shaving off a second in time by taking the time to lock the slide to the rear and racking the slide 2 extra times in the middle there. So now let's do my technique, which is even shorter and simpler than that. Mag block in the top of the empty magazine, dummy round in, set it up one more time, double feed. Let's time this one.
Stand by.
.305. So now we're almost another whole second faster than the other faster technique. So my personal belief is, in a gunfight, 2 seconds that you're saving off of the traditional technique is a long time. I need to get my gun back into the fight, up and running and functional as soon as possible. Play with these different techniques, test them, try them, make an educated decision of what you think is best or works best for you. The time, the data doesn't lie, so that's an important, and that's the reason why we do this, is so we can see what is the time difference, what are we saving, is it worth to save time by using a different technique that might introduce some other variables as far as other potential ways of failing. That's up for you to decide. Again, I've tested my fast technique across multiple different firearms and tested it many, many times, and it has without fail always worked for me. Probably tested it hundreds, and I mean, I don't know exactly how many times now, but I've tested it certainly hundreds of times in the last couple of years, and it's worked. So saving 2 seconds in my world makes it absolutely worth it. But use the LaserX software, put it against a timer, get the data, make an educated, informed decision for yourself of what's the best way for you to do it. And that's just another way that we can use LaserX software to inform our shooting and level up our skill. So again, thanks for laserapp.com, LASRAPP.com, for supporting Shooter Ready Challenge and being sponsors of Shooter Ready Challenge, and also Next Level Training and their fantastic SIRT pistols. Again, I recognize we didn't actually use a SIRT pistol in this month's drill, but they are awesome, and you can go back and see any number of times we've used them in past Shooter Ready Challenges. Type 3 malfunctions, it's a good thing to practice, not a thing that happens very often. Even in actual gunfights, we don't have a lot of video evidence of this being, a common thing, but it does happen. There are some instances out there. So it's a good thing to be aware of, to know how to solve, know how to fix, so that in case it happens to you in a moment of need, then you hopefully know what to do and can do it as quickly as possible. Thanks for watching, guys.